Hello friends, welcome to my channel Eco for Beginners. In this video, we will learn how we can calculate consumer surplus when we have demand function and a price is given. So we have to calculate consumer surplus when price is $5. So how we handle this type of questions? So we will discuss this. So let's get started. So this is our question. And demand function for the product is given as 20 minus 2p. QD is the quantity demanded, P is the price level. The market price of the product is 5. We have to calculate consumer surplus. So firstly, what is consumer surplus? Consumer surplus arises when a buyer's willingness to pay for a good exceeds its market value. For example, let's say you want to purchase a hair dryer and you would like to pay or willing to pay. Let's say you are willing to pay that I will buy a hair dryer and I am willing to pay 10,000. Let's assume. But when you go to the market, you are able to buy a good quality or good branded hair dryer with only $6,000. So it means you are willing to pay 10,000 for that hair dryer and that hair dryer is available to you at $6,000 only. So the difference between these two means $4,000 would be your consumer surplus. Means you saved that amount. Why? Because your willingness to pay is 10,000 for that product, but the actual price of that product is only 6,000, which is less than your willingness to pay. So that difference represents consumer surplus in economics. So when we talk about how we have to calculate consumer surplus using graph, so firstly we will draw the demand curve. Demand curve shows quantity on the x-axis or horizontal axis and prices on the y-axis or vertical axis. So demand curve, let's say this is our demand curve. So demand curve shows the willingness and ability of a consumer to pay for the good. So demand curve will show your willingness to pay, how much you are willing to pay, or ability. It is not only willingness, it's all about willingness and ability both. Okay, so it will represent, demand represents our willingness and ability. On the other hand, price will be like this. Let's say 5. In this case, let's say price is 5. So in the example, I show you that the difference between the willingness and the actual market price represent consumer surplus. So in this diagram, we can say our willingness or consumer willingness will be shown by the demand curve, and if the market price is less than that, so the difference between these two will represent consumer surplus. So in this question, firstly we have to draw the demand curve according to this equation, and at price of 5 we have to see how much is the consumer surplus. So this area would be our consumer surplus. So let's take the values and firstly draw the demand curve. Okay. So in our previous video, we have learned that how we draw demand curve using demand function. So demand function is QD is equals to 20 minus 2P. So firstly, we will draw demand schedule, which is tabular representation showing different combination of price and quantity demanded. So let's say I take price as 0. So when we put price as 0 in this equation, we will get 20 minus 2 into 0. 2 into 0 is 0 and the 20 minus 0 is 20. So we can write 20 here. And now let's say we take price as 5. So at price of 5, When we put P as 5, it would be 10, and 20 minus 10, the quantity demanded would be 10. And similarly, let's say we take price as 10. When we put P as 10, we will get quantity demanded 0. So now we will draw the demand curve using these combination. So price on the vertical axis, quantity on the horizontal axis. So when price is 0, quantity is 20. So let's say this is 20, and at price of 5, let's say this is 5, so quantity would be 10. Okay, so the intersection between these two would be, yes, this point, and this one is 20, 0, this one, and the third one is at price of 10, quantity is 0, quantity is 0 here, and the price is 10. So when we join these 3 points, we will get our demand curve. This would be our demand curve. So now we have to calculate consumer surplus when price is 5. So price at price 5, the difference between, or the area below the demand curve and above the market price, represent consumer surplus. So if you don't understand this concept till now, you can use this area below demand curve and above market price represents consumer surplus. So in this case, the area below the demand curve would be this one, and above the market price is 5, so it would be above this. So this area, this triangle, would be our consumer surplus. Now to calculate area of consumer surplus, we have to calculate area of this triangle. So now you know that area of triangle is half into base into height. So when we put the values, half into base of the triangle would be this one. So how we measure this? From x-axis. So 10 minus 0. And what about height? Height would be this. We measure from vertical axis, 10 minus 5. So when we do calculation, it would be 5, and 2 5s are 10, 5 into 5, 25, and these are in dollars. So our consumer surplus would be $25. So thank you. If you have any doubt, please use comment section, and don't forget to subscribe Eco for Beginners, in which we cover economics topics in simple and easy way. Have a great day. Bye bye.